Okay, welcome everybody, and we are diving in today. What are we
Yes.
talking about, Peter?
Scheduling and routine.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I have yet to master and don't know if I ever will.
Me too.
It's a constant battle, man. And it's a good thing to open up and talk about because I know for a fact every single real estate agent has the same problems and everybody really across the board where it's like, you know what you're supposed to do and it's hard to do it.
Yeah. So if you treat it as an open-ended endeavor, which I'll be honest, I did for a long time. You know what? Actually, when I first started in real estate, my mentality, I actually put myself back into, I thought about my 9-month shift being deployed. And I was like, you know what? I did it then. I kind of just worked for 9 months. So I can probably just do that. No, that's stupid. Like, being overseas, you don't have as much day-to-day life things, obviously, as you do in the US.
Yeah.
So
Well, you
everything
can't
was
go to
taken
Santa
care of.
Mercado later,
That too. You
which
can't
is what
go
we're going to
eat
do.
meat later at the steakhouse. All you do is shoot bombs and I don't know, whatever. So
The environment is different. And so
yeah.
that was my lesson too, where the environment, a book I read recently, Atomic Habits,
Mm,
set up your environment for success.
yep.
You do it for your infant child.
Mm-hmm.
You put covers on the corners, you put caps and locks on doors where there's like the chemicals under the sink or whatever. You set yourself up for success. If you want to read more books, take the books out of the back corner of your office and distribute them throughout the home.
Mm-hmm.
Put them on the table next to where you sit and watch TV and hide the remote in the back corner of your office. Make it little less friction so you can,
Yeah.
again,
It's
have the
seamless.
option to, yeah.
Yeah.
And so your environment dictates a massive amount of success, really.
Right. Some people say what your environment and the people you're with is like 95% of your results. I mean, that makes sense. I can't remember where I heard that, but
Yeah.
if it's true, and it sounds like sounds good,
You, you,
checks
you
out.
probably made it up.
Uh, there's a 60% chance I made that up. No, I mean, if that's true, and it seems like it
It,
is,
it is. I mean, I
you
don't know.
know,
The percentage, I would honestly say like 100% of it.
yeah,
And the thing that I always like and say it too much, it's like, well, that's why we're speaking English instead of Spanish. That's why, you are who you are because of the environment. Yes. Nature versus nurture. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know what this podcast is going to be titled yet. Maybe that, but like
Yeah,
nature versus nurture and scheduling.
yeah,
It's something where you have to wake up and go to the gym. You have to set your shoes out. Like those things, they work. And everyone knows it sort of stuff, but it's like, I don't know how many people do it. And I
yeah,
don't all the time too. So,
yep,
with the scheduling and routine, talk about, okay, so you were overseas, you were in Afghanistan for what, 9 months?
yep,
And I mean, that's a huge transition period. So maybe someone that's listening to this is a new agent, or they're working with you in Patriot Partners and like they're getting out of the military.
yep,
Structure in the military is good
mm-hmm.
and you kind of have to.
Yeah,
But that's, I think, why it's a successful operation. And so
yep.
maybe something along the lines of what have you maybe taken from your time there that you've seen work in real estate and just work overall?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a difference between like self-discipline and discipline. So like for example, my wife's she always tells me, "Well, you're so disciplined with a lot of things." And I'm like, "Well, that's great, but it's a little bit different when my time in the army, I can be punished under UCMJ for missing movement or not being in a certain place at a certain time. So
Right.
that external factor makes it a little bit different than being self-disciplined of, okay, I'm a 1099 employee. I don't need to go to the office. I don't even need to wake up before 11 if I don't want to.
No one's going to yell at me.
No one's going to yell at me. So
No one.
you need to have that self-accountability and that self-discipline to do it. And I mean, I'll be honest, I struggle with it. I
Me
think
too.
everybody does. And if you're listening and you say you don't, you're lying
Probably.
because at some point you did. But we'd love to hear some feedback and comments from you on that and what works for all of you guys.
Absolutely.
But sorry, to answer your question, yeah, I think taking certain routines, like we always have the morning workouts, obviously.
Right.
That is something I still do to this day. I wake up very early, meditate, work out, and when I have a good workout, it just makes my morning that much more seamless and easier to start off on the right note.
Yeah.
That's huge for me.
It's something that you again, everyone knows it. But it's like, so I did like just a lot of books, a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, a lot of everybody stuff. Like it's not about like the motivator. He's not a motivator.
Yeah.
It's the tactical things.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I like that you may or may not have heard, it's just like change your state, then you change the story,
Mm-hmm.
and then the strategy takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the easiest thing when you're feeling stuck, where it's like, I'm not doing it for whatever reason, I'm not working out in the morning, I'm not making phone calls, I'm not feeling it, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Change your state, change your story, change the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Before you just like, you know what, I'm going to make 10 phone calls. No, you're not. Go for a run,
Mm-hmm.
eat something, eat a banana, like
Or a sandwich.
eat a ham sandwich, leave the knife out, make one later for dinner, and then do the thing, because you will just be amazed. Like it's true, man. And the other thing too, Atomic Habits, where it's like, no, start with one, do one, don't do 10, do one.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Do it 5 days in a row.
you
See how it feels.
you build the confidence in yourself. It's Jordan Peterson, where you start with like, what is bothering me right now? And if it's something that you can't fix, aim lower.
Mm.
Until you find something that you can fix, that you will fix, and then you fix it.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
it's like, clean your room.
Yeah.
Don't make phone calls, clean your fucking room.
Yeah.
And like organize your office, know where all your stuff is. Then, and it's just like, that's a thing you can control. You build momentum.
Yeah.
So with scheduling and routine, for me, it's all that. It's momentum in small victories.
So do you schedule your week out ahead on Sunday nights, for example? The Sunday planning routine that we've been through?
Yeah. Well, I do, and then I don't. And
Yeah.
then whenever I do it, I have an amazing week. And when I don't, I hate myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Is the honest answer.
Honestly, I think it comes to a point for most people where you do it out of necessity, hopefully before it becomes, financial life or death in terms of, you succeeding in this industry or in any entrepreneurial space where
Right.
you're your own boss. But I think the further and the sooner you can get ahead of it, of just creating that routine of, okay, Sunday night, I'm doing my planning exercise. So I'm starting with, the things that throughout this next week that I cannot miss, such as time with my wife, time with my family, stuff like that. Those are the non-negotiables that you start with.
Correct.
Not work things.
Yeah, you put your life on your calendar first.
Right. Because at the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, I have a hard time thinking I'll look back and say, yeah, I wish I would have worked a little bit more. No, I don't think that happens. For crisis averted there. We almost had a disaster with Pete and his water. Anyway,
Yeah,
back
sorry.
to it.
Tim's on his deathbed. Back to that.
So the Sunday planning, plan your week out. And when you do that Monday to Friday, even into the next weekend, to your next planning exercise, it makes life easier.
It does. And it makes it fun. And, shout out to Jocko Willink, who will eventually be on this podcast. Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
I just blanked on my own statement there for a second.
There you go.
Discipline does equal freedom, where you're disciplined in the things you need to do. So, what we're working through, topic number 3, the top income producing activities throughout the week. It's put your life on your calendar first, the things that you want to enjoy, and then make sure that you're putting your top income producing activities for work next.
Yep.
Don't put your buyer inspection, if you're in real estate, that's not a top. You don't make money doing that.
Correct.
So Tim, what are top income producing activities in real estate?
Yep. So, and this is something that I have struggled with, just as most have, is actually hitting those blocks. So in this case, outbound phone calls. Everyone's business looks a little bit different, but when you're just getting started, one key pillar that you can capitalize on to get listings quickly is cold calling. So for sale by owners or expireds.
Mhm.
So if that's the number 2 thing you plan on your calendar and you do it Monday to Friday for 2 hours in the morning, that's your top income producing activity for the day. And one thing Durbin's told us that I enjoy doing, especially when the weather gets nice, is, okay, it's a Friday, you hit your 2 hours of calling and you don't have any appointments for the rest of the day. What do you do? Oh, let's go golf.
Yes.
But you can do it because you already did your activities that morning.
That's discipline equals freedom.
And that's going to make you money in the future, as long as you follow up and nurture them properly.
And back to what I said before too, I know when you said that, you said Monday through Friday, 2 hours of calling, meaning every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you have never done this before, make your goal 2 hours this week. I swear to you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Start small.
my massive, massive problem with these things is completely jumping in. I'm going to commit myself to 150% of this.
Yeah.
And
That's dangerous.
it's not realistic is really what it is.
Yeah. Cause I mean,
Because
if you're going to like, are you going to go from not running to running 18 miles tomorrow? No, you're going to hurt yourself.
And I'll hurt myself.
Right.
That's
So
fine.
this is no different. You're going to mentally hurt yourself.
Right. Which is worse, honestly, than physically hurting
Definitely.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm just being self-deprecating, but it's true. I mean, DJ is similar. There's a lot of people that work in this
Everybody
industry.
is.
In this industry, competitive people, I don't know, pick someone, it doesn't matter who it is, sales wise, where it's like, tell me I can't.
Right.
You know,
that gets them going.
it does. And it's not the best quality, but it's the thing that I work through.
So on that though, on
Yes.
the income producing activities, we talked about, okay, maybe you do it 5 days a week. Maybe you only do it one. One thing I think I'm going
Correct.
to toy around with here in the next couple weeks is I might just have my Tuesdays be a full day,
Taco
day of outbound calls, because I know, okay, Tuesday, we're not messing around. This is happening all day. And then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I know I'm good. I did it all for the week.
Right.
Now, you still need to do some maintenance things with that, but it takes away some of the guilt that you will feed yourself. At least this is for me. Those other times of the week when you're not making those calls.
Correct.
You're good for that week.
I was on a call with Jay Kinder. He did a training call last week, 2 weeks ago, relatively recently. And something along the lines of, in this profession, in a knowledge work profession, meaning, you're using your brain mostly.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do stuff in front of a computer screen. There is somewhere between 40 to 60 hours on average for the adult human being working in a knowledge work job. You're never going to be able to do it all. Your inbox zero is, if you're doing that, it's because you're missing things.
Yep.
It's because you don't have a filing system set up. The best way to feel peace is to know that you did the right things in the right order, that you planned to get you a little bit closer to your desired goal, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so, with that too, talking about more like giving yourself time off, you said work your hours in your schedule. And then when it's 3:00 on Friday, that is living your life, giving yourself a time off. Like, I struggle with that.
Me too.
And the reason we're at the office right now, it's 4:51 p.m. We're going to wrap this relatively soon. We're going to go downtown and we're going to hang out at probably Santa Mercado. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to be showing houses at 10 a.m. And I just have to get better at taking those opportunities where it's like, not every Friday.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm showing houses at 5:00 on Friday.
Sure.
But you have to plan it in a little bit in advance if you can.
Yeah.
And take advantage of your time when you have it. So.
Yeah. And that goes back to the Sundays. Like, okay, when you're scheduling out your number one of, okay, my personal stuff, with family, friends, whatever. If I did this last week, so my wife flew out Thursday for a bachelorette party, and she was working all last week. And so really the only time we get to hang out was like Tuesday, and it was Tuesday morning. And I planned out, okay, we're going to go get some coffee, breakfast, and go to Phipps Conservatory. And we had I took a half day off where I just didn't do anything for real estate for a half a day on a Tuesday. And it was amazing because it wasn't as busy.
Discipline equals freedom.
Right. So, but the point is, I knew that was scheduled first. So everything that goes income producing goes after that.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. And it keeps you sane.
It does. And again, I certainly struggle with it as well. On that too, it's like, oh, you guys get to make your own schedule in real estate. That must be so fun. It's like, it is the most terrifying.
It's a curse.
It's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse, depending on how you use it. With great power comes great responsibility.
Is that what Spider-Man's aunt said?
His uncle. But I forget the uncle's name.
The uncle said it first, then the aunt, and then the Green Goblin came in and just trucked through the hospital wall.
Correct. It's true, though.
It is true.
I haven't seen that movie in a while, but
yeah, it's a good one.
We'll do Marvel movie reviews on the next episode. But it's what great power comes great responsibility. I'm an idiot, but the feeling of, listen, you have the ability to take your half day on Tuesday, and no one's going to call you to wake you up in the morning. And guess what? no one's going to call you to help you when you're failing.
Right.
And that's what's so scary about it.
Yeah.
Because no one gives an F either way.
What is Mel Robbins? You ever see those Instagram reels where
no one's coming?
Yeah, Mel Robbins.
No one's coming.
No one's coming.
No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to help you.
I mean,
no one's coming. Figure it out. Like
it's sad, but it's true. So here's kind of a high level question.
We get targeted with the same.
What
Instagram
would
ads.
you rather have though? Because it's that where you got to be a self-starter. You got to know your schedule. You got to get it down. You got to have experience, get the years in, be gritty during some periods like right now where it's difficult.
Yes.
Would you rather have that at the end of the day and the end of your life, or looking back and it's like, hey, I have nothing against like a 9-to-5 where, you earn a modest income and you have a lot of time with your family. It's just about what you want.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's something where, okay, so Arte Syndicate, intrapreneur versus entrepreneur. And this is Andy Frisella talking about it. Andy runs First Form, the supplement company. And the concept is, listen, I have a lot of guys that make a couple $1 million a year, and I have $40 million worth of cars. And again, just to preface this, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about what you want out of your work.
Yep.
Andy took all the risk.
Yeah.
Andy put 35 years. He doesn't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do anything else.
Yep.
And that's what he wanted. And so it's just the intrapreneur versus entrepreneur. I mean, I go back and forth on it sometimes where it's
Can you define that for people that don't know?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I have the best definition, but like the intrapreneur is working within the company that the entrepreneur started, but it's someone who aligns with the entrepreneurial like attitude, but they aren't willing to take the risk of.
They're within the confines of the structure, kind of.
Yeah, you don't have to pay for your own health insurance.
Sure.
Is maybe the simplest thing I can think to say it quickly.
Yeah.
Like I pay for my own health insurance.
Yep.
EXP offers health insurance. Just throwing that out there.
That's neat.
It's a good thing. But anyway, that's not what this is about. It's about what level of risk tolerance do you have?
Yep.
So my point in saying that is giving yourself time off, time blocking, just to move into the next subject. What do you think about that? Is it something that's worked for you?
Yes and no. And this is where the discipline comes in, right? Because when you time block and you say, okay, Tuesday from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., I'm making outbound phone calls. Well, what that would mean then is I'm not walking my dog. I'm not answering my phone. I'm not answering my email. I'm not answering my texts. So what does that come back to? It goes back to our prior episode of expectations. So when I'm on a listing appointment, I'll tell them, hey, Monday to Friday or whatever, Monday to Friday from 8 to 10, I'm making outbound phone calls. I'm actually trying to find some buyers for your property. And I'm making other phone calls for other sellers in the area. So just so you know that if I don't answer during that time period, that's why.
Right.
So then you're kind of training them and they know, oh, well, let's wait till 11 to even text him, same thing with my wife.
And that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's very good because it allows people to know when they're going to hear from you.
Right.
Which allows them, the worst thing in the world, man, is being like, freaking call this guy. He never calls me back.
Yeah. Just being open-ended.
Exactly. Yep. And that's where frustration builds, I think.
Exactly. So if you set those expectations up front, then time blocking can be great. Where it's a disaster is where you don't do that. And this happens a lot for me. I'm not going to lie. Me too, I have all the best intentions of making all these phone calls on a Tuesday at 8:30. And then, something happens.
Dog throws up.
Yeah, or even related real estate. You get a call from the seller like, "Hey, my hot water tank just blew up." Yeah, your seller throws up. Like my hot water tank blew up, and it's like, if you really think about that, is anyone hurt? No.
Correct.
Can you unblow up the water tank? No, you cannot. Is it taken care of? Yes, it is. So if you just didn't answer that phone call because they knew you weren't going to answer it, by the time it was like lunch rolls around, and you call them back, they say, "Oh, hey, Tim, we had an issue at the house this morning, but it's actually all taken care of. We cleaned everything up. No big deal. We're getting a new hot water tank in there." And then you say, "Oh, great. Thanks for letting me know." Yeah. As opposed to letting that blow up your morning where it's cutting into your income producing activity time.
Correct. And that's very good real life example. I've had that happen. I've had water
That
tanks
was a real
blow.
story.
Okay.
Yeah.
My water tank was like the day before closing. Listing agent calls me because she's a boss, Karen Marshall, shout out. She called me to tell me that it was replaced already.
Oh yeah, I did that. Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
it was, I was like, oh my God, thank you for being
Right.
extraordinary. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just such a nice feeling where, like, my experience, and I've had a couple happen, but it's like,
Yeah.
I had a deal fall apart once because at the final walkthrough, the roof was a big back and forth we were fighting about, like literally in fight. Like it wasn't the best transaction.
Right.
Transaction fell apart because at the final walkthrough, there was 3 gigantic bubbles of water like pocketing through the ceiling, and we're like, so again, time blocking.
Um, I just want to hit on one thing with that because I like what you said with Karen coming back to you.
It can take your life
Yeah.
away from you. You won't be successful if
Yeah.
you are always just running, trying to put out the
Right.
fires.
So, but on that though, real quick, the fact that she did that, she solved the problem. So she came to you with the solution, not a problem.
Right.
There's people that will come to you and say, "Oh, this happened," and then just wait for. It's like, well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. Or it's
It's
like we're
like
both adults.
one of my former commanders, Captain Dave Knowles, shout out if you hear this, love you, buddy. He used to say to me, sometimes jokingly, sometimes well deserved, "Hey, don't be a 2-foot wall guy." What
Yeah.
does that mean?
That's
Other,
good.
I'm standing in front of a 2-foot wall and I don't know how to get over it. Really? You're 6 feet tall. You can't just take one step. So the point is, like, come to your clients and other people in your life with a solution, not a problem.
Yeah. And that's something, I
That
mean,
saves a lot of pain.
well, and it fits this topic too. We're just like scheduling and routine, where it's like, how do you, all of this is about how you handle problems. It's how you do anything. It's how you do everything,
Yep.
and that phrase too. So, I mean, time blocking for me is something that I battle with in the sense that I didn't understand it for years.
Yep.
And so what has helped me significantly is literally on a piece of notebook paper, 8 a.m., like the night before, what am I going to do tomorrow morning?
Yep.
And then I wake up and I hold the paper
Mhm.
and I look at it and I do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And those are really good days.
Yeah.
And I find that whenever I'm just kind of like floating, feeling a little anxious, as if I should be doing something right now,
Yeah.
it's because I didn't take the time to think in advance, because
Happens all the time.
no one's good enough to think it in the moment, man. Like,
Exactly.
I'm not smart enough. No one's smart enough.
Yeah. You're not, like, you can't just think, what's the best use of my time? Okay. Shifting. Like, that doesn't happen.
And that's overwhelm.
So it starts the night
creation.
before is what you're saying.
Right.
And I think that's great. I have a few things here to hit on that.
Yeah.
The first one is just, okay, yeah, you plan it out Sunday, do a check-in the night before.
Right.
How's my week going? What am I doing tomorrow? What are the meetings tomorrow? What are the non-negotiables tomorrow? Just do a check-in, set your workout clothes out, pack your sandwich, do the stuff so
Go
that
to Jimmy John's.
you wake up, hop out of bed, and you're just like, let's go.
Yeah. And then you're just executing.
Yeah, execute. Thanks,
Exactly.
Chad. Right. The second thing, I don't want to derail us, but I just have a couple
no,
thoughts. Everything
there's
keeps
no
popping
derailing.
up. The second thing was DJ and Matt talk about it all the time.
Right.
If you have a big enough pipeline and you have enough business going on, you're not going to strangle those 2 deals you have in escrow. So you won't answer the call
Correct.
at 10 a.m. when you already told the seller you won't,
Or
because you're
10
making
p.m.
calls, or 10 p.m.
like a psycho.
You're not going to answer that and try to squeeze the deal, like make it happen, because it's a lot of it's out of your control. So if you hit your time blocks, you do enough income producing activity, you get a large enough pipeline, you get enough deals. If you have 8 in escrow, 1 falls through, it's too bad, but you got 7 more.
Yeah. And that's something, don't be a helicopter parent either.
What does that mean?
Don't hover over your deals and strangle them to death.
Yeah.
Let your kid fall down and pick himself back up at the park.
Exactly.
Where it's just like, don't be a helicopter parent if it's just like, oh, my baby.
That reminds me
it's just like, it's not a good way to behave. And so, well, I mean, that's the thought. So good.
No, when you're saying that, I was thinking, those little hats that have the little propeller.
Yeah, like the dunce cap sort of thing.
That's what my brain went to on that.
Yeah, little Peter running around in the park.
Helicopter hat.
Helicopter hat.
A helicopter beanie cap. A third thing on that. I'm probably going to misquote this fact, so bear with me, you historians out there. I read somewhere in a book about how Napoleon used to, I think it was something like he would get a message, say it was like a hand delivered message on the battlefield.
Okay.
And he would have a policy of he would not send a response for like a very long time in today's standard. So like 3 days.
Okay.
or like 7 days, something to that effect. And what would happen is 9 times out of 10, that issue would resolve itself by the time he sent a response. So that's just the thing. If you're getting all these calls, late at night or during your
Right.
time blocking hours, how many of those things do you think will resolve themselves? So that kind of actually leads in to the last thing pretty nicely.
Well, I'll let you take the intro to that.
I'll pat myself on the back for that. So this is something that I've been working on quite a bit, and that is prioritization of incoming information. So what does that mean?
What does that mean, Tim? Tell us.
That means what needs to be done now versus what can be done later.
Right.
So an example, I am sitting at a wedding and it's a joyous moment of my friends.
Is this a real life example?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my phone's blowing up about, pardon my language, some shithead agent who is harassing me
Yes, it's real.
over an appraisal. Go figure. So is that something that needs to happen right away, or should I just enjoy this moment? Of course, I should enjoy the moment. That's why you're
Absolutely.
here. Life's for enjoyment. So, anyway, the point of that is if you let that run you rampant, you will burn out. And I'm guilty of it. I've
Me
had
too.
miserable vacations because I let a situation in real estate ruin it for me. And that's my fault.
Y-
I either didn't set
Yeah,
the expectations for the other people I'm dealing with prior to, or I didn't set the expectations with myself, or I didn't say, okay, I know I'm on vacation from 3 to 4 p.m. I'm going to deal with everything in my inbox. I'm going to silence my alerts, whatever.
yeah. I turn my phone off, man, and it drives
Yeah.
some people to be unhappy. But
But at the like in 5 years,
it
are
just
you gonna look back and be like, "Man, I really wish I would have responded to that appraisal on time," or, like, are you gonna remember the fact you had a great time at your friend's wedding, it's very memorable, there's some great photos, like,
exactly, and that's so the prioritization of incoming information
information.
is okay. So there's your internal environment, there's your external environment. Which one do you have control over? Well, you have control over your internal environment, and small piece of the external where like you can control what things look like, what things kind of become. Like you can build stuff. Like you can control the external environment, but no one else should be able to control your internal environment. And
Yep.
with the appraisal example, that's a thing where I've been guilty of it, man, where it's just like, okay, Kevin O'Loughlin, shout out Movement Mortgage, had a Christmas
Movement
party
mortgage.
sponsored by Kevin O'Loughlin with Movement Mortgage.
Okay.
The Christmas party, I said yes to an appointment in Jeanette, PA.
Where is that for people that don't know?
I
How
don't
far from Pittsburgh?
I don't know. I can't remember. 40 minutes.
Mm.
And it was at like 2:00. Person's late. Listing appointment. I do the listing appointment, drive back, get changed, didn't eat dinner, drive downtown, drinking, feeling stressed, bad day before, builds and builds and builds.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to go home. I
Yeah.
wasn't drinking at the time because I was doing 75 hard, which was actually more stressful because I wasn't drinking. And I was like, I have to exercise later still to finish 75. And it just scheduling and routine. If you're not prioritizing your incoming information, I should have said no to that. I should have done it on Saturday. And I ended up having a bad night. Like I was fighting, with my date at the time, and just like it wasn't a good experience.
Yep.
And that feeling is something where, at that wedding in that example, man, it sucks so bad. Like I just don't want to ever be the guy who leaves my kid's
Oh
soccer
my God.
practice. And that's a
Never.
terrifying reality of this business.
Yep.
Is the stress, the higher
The
divorce
divorce rate,
the-
alcoholism.
it's true.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think this topic's so important. Is
Yes.
because it's real. And if you say you don't have a problem with these things, then you have the problem with the alcohol. And like that's the reality of it is like you're either doing something wrong. You have to get to a place where you're feeling peaceful at the end of the day.
Yep.
And that you did and know that you did the best that you could do. So
Yep. Man, I had something I wanted to close out on, and
well,
I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay.
Oh,
We
here it
need
is.
more podcasts.
It came back, folks. Came back. So I think one thing to consider too, and I think I'm getting better at this with more experience. And this kind of leads back to the bigger pipeline. And if you set your business up in a way where you're working with people that you enjoy working with
Yes.
and vice versa,
Very much agree.
let me ask you, would you want to do business with somebody who's going to pull you away from a cherished moment with your friends and family just for business?
Well,
I
no.
think that's a, rhetorical. Obviously not.
Right.
I,
And
I don't want to deal with people that are going to say, "Hey, I know you're at a wedding," or "I know you're in a wedding, but
I know you're getting married.
I know you're going to get married. I know you're with your kids." But it's like, well, but just negated that. And
Right.
I don't like working with you because you have no boundaries. So set your own boundaries with that.
Correct.
Set the expectations with your clients.
And an
Work
easy
with
way
good
to
people.
do that too is like if you are working with someone who's respectful on the other side of the transaction, agent wise,
Right.
tell them you're going to a bachelor party.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, John Smith agent, I'm going to Michigan and I'm not going to answer my phone Saturday.
Yep.
I'll talk to you on Sunday afternoon,
Yep.
maybe, like,
Yeah.
or hey, this is Tim's number. Tim is going to help us out for the next 48 hours.
Mhm.
There's probably no reason for you to call him.
Yep.
And so just making sure that they have some sort of fail safe
Right.
is helpful.
And that's what I'm going to do next week. Thanks, Pete.
Yep, Tim's going to Mexico. So
Woo!
the closing thoughts, do you have any as far as maybe
Um, not really. I mean, I guess I'd just say this is something that I struggle with, you struggle with, everyone struggles with. I think some of the best people in this business have this mastered or at least close to, and they do treat it like a business, obviously, with their time.
Yeah.
And they just respect it and they train other people to respect their time too. They have systems in place
Yep.
that allow them to live the life that they want to live.
I love that. And with what you just said, it made me think of a clip that I saw of a rapper coming into the studio. And it's relevant because, like, what do you think of? It's like 3 a.m. Snoop Dogg doing whatever they're doing, in the studio. And so Eminem was recording with this younger rapper. I forget who it was. Younger rapper comes into the studio at like 4:30. Eminem left at 4 because he was there at 7:30
Mhm.
in the morning.
Mhm.
Because if anyone recalls, he had a daughter.
Yep.
And guess what he had to do? He had to go home and take care of his kid.
Yeah.
And so he was treating it like a business.
Mhm.
And part of the reason I think he was so successful and a lot of those guys became the absolute legends that they are is because it was a job that they loved and they treated it as such a business that they grew.
Yeah.
They weren't like, yeah, they're out till 4 a.m., but it's like, it's a persona.
Yeah.
And that's what the video is about. It's like realizing that that is a persona that they were putting out there that, like, realistically, they're going to bed.
Yeah.
And because you, like, how do you perform on stage
Right.
like 3 nights?
And be your best. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yep.
like an athlete where it's like Kobe Bryant's going to bed. So someone else that's performing at that high level.
Yep.
And if they're not, they're probably lying. So
True.
my thought is like 8 a.m., know what you're doing, know when you're stopping for lunch, leave a time gap for some variables, and you'll be good.
Yeah. It's just real estate.
It's 5:11 p.m. We're going to go downtown. We're going to enjoy a beautiful day in April. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. Please comment, like, share the show. Let us know how we can do better or a topic or two you want us to talk about. And thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, folks.